there, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is the dead walk. It is true on several levels. I mean, in one way, as I've said in previous videos, my mom was, I believe, the finest human I'll ever meet, that I have ever met and that I will ever meet. She was just an unbelievable human, and we all get our liquid gold in a different place. Many of us will not get our liquid gold from our home environment, which can often be, in many two-legged journeys, toxic, and they may find their liquid gold in a friendship or in a partnership. My liquid gold was with me since birth, and it was my mom, and she was an unbelievable two-legged, and she died when I was 24. And so one of the ways that she continues to walk in this world is every time I speak of her teachings, her offerings, I keep alive the energy that is Jana Mackey. And she was a tremendous grace and a tremendous gift to anyone that had the opportunity to share space and time with her, because she was profound and deep and spiritual and interesting and kind and compassionate and loving and attentive and a generous listener. She was so many things. And so every time I embody those qualities, I am sharing the quintessence and the energy and the essence that is my mother. And I cause her to continue to walk in this world. Another way that that's also true is that we are spirit playing flesh costume. And death is challenging for a lot of two-leggeds, and it's because we are mired in the belief in the physical world. And you are made of emptiness. Are you sure you're here? You're made of atoms. Atoms are made of 99.9999999999994% emptiness. So are subatomic particles. So are the three quarks within a subatomic particle. And the part that, quote unquote, matters pops in and out of existence. Are you sure you're here? I theorize that when those components that matter pop in and out of existence, they actually go to the infinite multiverse component aspect of quantum theory. So they're popping in and out of infinite multiverses, and only a nominal amount matters. If we actually were to condense all 7.8 or 9 billion people that we now have on planet Earth School, and we calculated the amount that matters, that is not made of emptiness, it would fit into a sugar cube that you could drop into your tea this day. So that's a very nominal amount that's actually here. Where are you, my dear, if you're not here? So if we're not actually the body, if the body is simply a flesh costume, if it is a construct, if it is an idea in which we can flirt with ideas, like who am I? Who am I in relationship to this shadow teacher? Who am I in relationship to this moment of light? Who am I in relationship to false evidence appearing real or fear? Who am I in relationship to love? All things that we get to bounce against in the journey of a lifetime if we get to live a fuller life. So when we consider that the fact that we engage with what feels like a solid, cohesive physical world, I'm made of emptiness, but it doesn't feel like I'm made of emptiness. Where's Heather? There she is. Where's Kitty Cat? Oh, so fluffy right here. It can cause the consciousness to become mired in the idea that physicality is reality and that we are here, and that if you die, you are not here anymore. And I've often said Hades, Osiris, Yama, there are many, many names. I've often said that one which rules the underworld is my mate, is my spouse. And I've asked and prayed, like, please let go of my hand so I can actually have a living mate to hold hands with in this life. And I've had times, due to my own ego and my own hubris, that I've wondered, am I like an angel of death? Because it seems like everything I get around dies. I've had probably close to 60 deaths at this point. It's a lot, It started at 17 months old with my dad, and then my Nana when I was, 3 or 4, I don't know, when I was a wee babe, And so I've been staring into the face of death for a long time. And here's what I know. It's, they say, Malcolm Gladwell would say 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours to get to a place of mastery. So I definitely have mastery in death because it's mostly what I do. It's bury, and on so many levels, I bury so many things. Even when I go for hikes, Hades, Yama, Osiris, always holding my hand. He's like, touch that, touch that. There's just like dead things around. I'm just like, interesting, good handiwork, you know? He's a handsy fella. Bless it. What I know through my mastery, through my expertise, through my masterfulness of having had a lot of experience and a lot of witnessing of dead bodies and what we call death and what we call the dying and what we call dead, is that there is spirit. Now, for those of you that don't know that there's spirit, that identify atheistic or agnostic, that may not be true for you, and that's okay. Maybe this video isn't for you, boo-boo. I would say, before we claim something, prejudice is where we judge something before we know anything about it. So before you claim that there's not a soul, before you claim that there's not a God, I would recommend that you study near-death experiences, study reincarnation, study all the material ever given around a soul, meditate, try to find your old soul, spend a decade meditating, looking for your soul, looking for a spiritual component, looking for the capacity to travel the realms. Then you're a knower. Then when you say, oh, there's no soul, you go, oh, well, I've studied everything there is on the soul. I've journeyed within to find it and I never found anything. Okay, that makes sense. That is a statement that comes from knowledge, and knowledge comes from experience, and experience is a great teacher, so we can have individual experiences ourselves. And I would say the same for God. You know, you can't put love in a beaker and hand it to me, but yet I can experience love with you. So same for God. Some things are content-based and not form-based. So it's okay to say there's no God, and it's okay to say that in prejudice and in the hubris and ignorance of, I'm going to judge this before I study it. But a really intelligent and wise place to come from is to study to know before we claim and let something go. So, you know, I say this because a lot of people have chosen to let go of God, Goddess, Supreme Godhead, the One. There are a lot of different terms for that. There's Trinity aspects of this divine Mother, Maiden, Crone, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Isis, Osiris, Horus. There are many different ways that humanity throughout all time has talked about something called divine, divinity, source. You know, it's been given many different names. It seems to be really imbued in the collective consciousness to be something that is a nothing, you know? And I feel that way about unicorns and Pegasus. Probably they operate at a different frequency. Just because you haven't traveled there doesn't mean they don't exist. Do aliens exist? For a lot of people, no. Why? Because they haven't been abducted. But, you know, not everyone's been in a building that's been bombed. Not everyone's lost their limbs. Just because you don't have an experience doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so in order to know if something exists, we spend our time and attention and awareness with it. And I use these two examples to elucidate what I'm talking about today, because the same is true with the dead. And I got to tell you, I don't know that I would have made it through this life of mine without having had the miraculous, magical, mystical experiences, which is what I would call them, because that's how they feel, because they're so counter to the Newtonian mechanistic way I've been asked to chew upon this world, that I've had with the dead, what I've had with the dead and the dying. And I could hand you infinite stories, but the challenge is experience is a great teacher. I could tell you, I went swimming, and oh my God, we were swimming, and water feels like this, and I could try to describe that experience to you, and hopefully, if I'm a good orator and storyteller, I would give you some visceral zhuzhiness of what that's like, but it will never be the same as you swimming yourself. So although I have a long string of stories around death and dying, because it's where a lot of my attention has been placed, what I can say definitively from Heather Feather's temple of experience is the dead are with you. The dead walk. The dead walk. The dead talk. The dead are all around you. And one grace that's come from, you know, my mom, my dad, former lovers, best friends, many, so many dead, grandparents, whatever, you know. One thing that's come from it that's a grace is there more available to me. My dad was an artist, and when I paint, my dad, not being in his body, is available to me in the moment of now to be like, your body's in an uncomfortable position to paint that. Hey, maybe step back and take a look at it before you keep tickling that painting piece right there. Give it a minute, you know? Sit with it. So he often advises me because I invoke and invite him into my art moments, and advises me well, and advises me in ways that Heather Feather does not advise herself. I am not an earth elemental. I'm a fire, water, or air elemental, right? And I lack earth. So my dad was very earthen, and he gives me earthly advice when I paint. And my mom, when I do an astrology reading, when I'm doing an astrology reading for a client, she is right there, super available to me for me to, she reminds me of things. Oh yeah, and this and this. And she'll show me moments in which she was teaching me things with astrology, which she started teaching me at the age of 13. So I'm able to contribute not only from my own cup, but from my cup of the dead, because they walk and they are around me. And I say this today because life can feel like a place in which one is alone. Heather Feather doesn't feel lonely because I love my own company, and I have 1,010,000 things, drives, desires, passions, interests, visions. So I'm really overwhelmingly able to fill my time, and I fill it so much that I have to work to clear my plate to create time for family and friends. So I thrive alone, but there can be, this component alone too, where we really feel, as somebody whose parents are dead and both my siblings have their own families, there can be a quality of inner homelessness. Sometimes we feel we're wandering. It's like, there have been moments where Heather's like, well, the vast majority of my people are on the other side. And I just got to get through this lifetime to get to where I can see them again. And it's not true. It's not true. I could see them again. I could use a lot of my consciousness studies that I've done and meditation abilities. I've been doing meditation since I was about 5, and I'm 47. So I could use over 4 decades of meditation to go within to see them. Clairvoyance is a developed life skill. Mostly I communicate with them, and I communicate with them a bunch. And the Akashic Records even echoes this. Sometimes when I get Akashic Records readings, I'm like, anything that they want me to know? And the Akashic Records is like, you talk to them all the time. You talk to your dad all the time. As a matter of fact, they like you to focus up on your visions because they want you to understand that there is no loss. Loss is not a thing. The dead walk, right? So this is merely a temporary thing called Heather Feather, playing Heather Feather in this flesh costume with these titles, with these identifications, with these labels we love to put on two-leggeds. And I'm so much more than all of that as well, because I'm all the lifetimes, I'm all the cultures I've been, I'm all the gender expressions I've been. For me, time and space are a delusion. And just as I am all the vast things I've ever been, all the cultures I've ever walked in, all the skin tones I've ever walked in, all the gender identifications I've ever walked in, all the loves and losses and blah, blah, blah I've ever had. What I do know is that there really is no loss. You can't lose any information. Is not lost in the universe, you guys. So the information that is the one that you loved is still available to you. And more importantly, their personality, their isness, their beingness, their wisdom in a right here now moment is available to you. They're not in their flesh costume, just like God is in a flesh costume, which is why it doesn't come and shake your hand. It doesn't take form. It's content-based. They are content-based. They are no longer form-based in that way in this lifetime. They may take up other forms. They may have an oversoul that oversees multiple incarnations at once. Heather could be in multiple lifetimes and actually being multiple cultures right now. My soul might be much larger than just fitting into an individual flesh costume. But what I do know is the dead walk amongst me, with me, around me, and they are more bioavailable, available to me in my life and as a part of my life today outside of their flesh costume than they were in their flesh costume, because they were sometimes in a meeting or working or not available. Are there any that you have lost, that you have loved, that you would like to connect to and communicate with this day? My invocation and my invitation today is to connect to your dead. to let them continue to be a part of your life, not only in you sharing their teachings and their offerings that grew you and aided you, but also in literally staying connected and keeping that bridge open too. Egyptian and Hawaiian shamanism are coming up at the end of this year. You can always go to rarebirdmedicine.com, click on the classes link, and you'll see more information about those classes there. I just dropped the price on both of those, so they're only $222 now. And you can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments as well. I'd love to hear about those that you love. Amun.